Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today on this webinar. I'm really excited to be here with you today to share some information with you that I hope can make a meaningful impact on your business. Since inception, the Bill Good Marketing system has been designed to help financial advisors double their production or work half as much. But oftentimes, when new advisors come to us, they'll tell us that simply doubling isn't actually what they have in mind. They have a very specific milestone they want to reach. Maybe it's a specific mark in AUM. Maybe it's a rank in their firm's top producers list. But perhaps the most common milestone that we hear, at least initially, from new advisors onto our system is, I want to hit 1 million in production and beyond. Now, there are many things advisors need to do to hit a benchmark like that. The magic of Bill's system is that we have a process in place for each of them. So today we're holding the first in what I hope will be a series of webinars, all geared towards the processes that help advisors get to 1 million in production and beyond. Now, my name is Matthew Bailey. I am the head writer and director of client content here at Bill Good Marketing. I've been with BGM for just under 18 years now, I believe. And in that time, I've also been a coach here where I've helped teach advisors all about the system and how to implement it. Prior to that, I served as something called a remote computer operator. And I'll get into exactly what that means and why I bring it up a little bit later, because it has to do with one of the processes that I'm going to show you today. Now, I mentioned that there are many things advisors need to do to reach that 1 million mark. One of them is very simple. You cannot let opportunities to grow slip through the cracks. It's like trying to drive a car with your parking brake on. But every week, our coaches hear stories from advisors about the prospect who didn't close, the referral that went nowhere, the seminar that filled a room but didn't lead to any appointments, or even the client CD that matured, but the assets didn't move over. Some of these opportunities are big, some of them are small, some are low-hanging fruit, some require you to leave no stone unturned in order to uncover them. But the only way to grow at the pace you want, to the point that you want, is that it requires that you consistently and constantly capture the majority of those opportunities. And that's what today's webinar is all about. I said you can't be $1 million producer if you let too many opportunities slip away. So today we're going to go over 3 very easy processes, each geared towards common types of opportunities that too often go unrealized. Processes to help you keep more, find more, and close more. Now, I'd love to tell you that these processes are super complex formulas that only a genius could come up with, but they're really not. They're very simple, they're straightforward, and they work. And when done consistently, these processes will help you identify and seize more opportunities to add AUM and increase revenue. Okay, so what are those processes exactly? Well, there are 3 specific ones that I want to show you today. The first one is called our pitch and miss process. I have to say that slowly because it's easy to fumble around those words. Pitch and miss process. This situation, or this process, is for the situation where you have a prospect who you tried to close, who you pitched to, but they ultimately said no. It also works for prospects who seemed very interested, but stopped responding to your emails, don't answer the phone, or said they would reach out to you, but didn't. We call those kinds of prospects ghost prospects, and this process can work for them as well. Ultimately, these are not prospects that you can afford to just let go. So this process is designed to help you specifically target these types of situations so that the majority of prospects who say no or go dark still end up doing business with you. The second process we're going to talk about is what Bill calls our No-Name Referral Process. And I'm sure you've encountered this scenario before, where a client will casually mention that they talked about you to a friend or associate, but they don't tell you who that is. It could be in a call, in a meeting, in an email, or even just when you pass each other, in the grocery store. These are theoretically referrals, but they often don't go anywhere. And this process is about how to turn those situations into actual future introductions. And then the final process we're going to go over is what I call our hidden opportunities process. This is my personal favorite for reasons I'll get into later. But the long and short of it is that it involves helping you find opportunities to perform activities that lead to growth, opportunities that usually go completely unnoticed. So we're going to go in each of those individually. Now, before we do, however, a couple of housekeeping notes I want to go over with you. First of all, if you are new to a Bill Good Marketing webinar, one of the things that we have always done is we offer you a goodie bag at the end of the call. It's our way of saying thank you for giving us an hour of your time. In today's goodie bag, we actually have the three written processes that I'm going to go over, the actual steps in each process. And this is important because this way you don't have to be frantically scribbling notes or hitting the print screen button on your keyboard. We have everything I'm going to cover written and documented in step-by-step format. So you'll be able to get those goodies at the end of this call, where I'll explain exactly what you need to do to get your hands on them. Only takes about 30 seconds, so stick around for that. And then finally, if you at any point have any questions about any of these processes or the individual steps inside them, please let me know. I'd love to do my best to answer any questions you have. So just feel free to stick those into the chat or the question box, and I'll get to them as I can. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of each of these processes, and we'll start with number one, the pitch and miss process. So again, the problem that we're trying to solve with this process is, according to our experience, our studies here, for those of you who are trying to get to that million and beyond mark, as many as 40 to 60% of your prospects, people who are qualified and show interest, will either say no, they're a pitch and miss, or they'll become unresponsive. They'll go dark, as Bill likes to say. Now, your particular statistics may be higher or lower, but in general, this is what we often see. 40 to 60% of prospects either say no or they just become unresponsive. So we're going to tackle that problem with this process. Okay, before we get into the actual steps, a few terms we need to define in order to get on the same page here. When I say pitch and miss, what I mean is a prospect who entered the sales cycle, but they declined to take the next step. So what that often looks like is a hot prospect who came in for one or even two appointments with you, but they end up choosing another advisor or saying something like, I can't do this right now, contact me again in 9 months. Any kind of variation on that. It could also be a prospect who seemed super interested in doing business with you, but when you went for the appointment, they said no, they don't actually want to meet with you. Either way, you pitched and you missed. They said no. So that's one type of prospect we're going to be dealing with on this process. The other one is what Bill calls a ghost prospect. Now, this is a prospect who showed interest, but delayed taking action and eventually stopped responding. The classic example of this is a seminar attendee who requested a meeting with you, but never answered the phone to schedule an appointment. But there's so many different variations on a ghost prospect. All you need to remember is that someone who became unresponsive, even though they were previously interested. So this process is specifically for these two types of prospects. It's works best for the pitch and miss prospects, but it can work for ghosts. It's a little bit less effective because typically you will not have as much information to work with on your ghost prospects as you will on your pitch and miss, but it can work for both. So let's go into the actual steps of this process. The goal, of course, is that up to 50% of people who initially said no or became unresponsive should eventually do business with you. Now, you can go even further than this. A lot of advisors on our system, they'll report to us that they'll get to a point where 50% of all their new business coming in comes from people who initially said no or went dark. I remember we did a webinar, or Bill did a webinar back in 2019 with a terrific advisor named Neil McPeak. And we'll try and get that link to that recording to you in the chat if you want to take a look at it, where Neil talked about his variation on this process for dealing with ghost prospects and how 50% of his business came from those kinds of people. Here at Bill Good Marketing, historically, 50% of our business that we generate comes from people who initially said no. So this is a really cool goal to aspire to and even move past. So how do we do that? The first step in this process is really, really simple, but it often goes undone. And that's to record what made the prospect interested in the first place. What problem were they trying to solve when they first came into your orbit? What opportunity were they trying to seize? What benefit from working with you were they interested in you? Were they interested in? The reason why this is so important to document is because when a prospect says no or goes dark, they're essentially telling you that they believe they can get what they need elsewhere or they can do it themselves. But chances are they can't. And if their need is still unsatisfied down the road, your name needs to be the first name that crosses their mind. But too often, advisors don't actually document in a place that's easily visible what made the prospect interested. And you must do that. And we'll get into that a little bit more in just a second. The second step you have to do is determine why you missed. Um, what is the reason they said no, or what could be the reason they went dark? Did they go with another advisor? It's a common one. They'll tell you something like, my brother-in-law is also an advisor and he says that he can manage my portfolio for me, so I'm going to go with them. Or maybe they didn't have time to move forward with you right now. There's just too many other things going on in their life. They can't be thinking about a long-term financial plan. Or perhaps they want to wait until a certain event happens in their life, a certain condition is removed before they can work with you. Either way, you need to know exactly, to the best of your ability, what made them interested and then why it didn't work, because we're going to touch on both of those moving forward. Now I see we have a question from Dave. Dave asks, what if we approach them versus them seeking us initially? The same rules or the same steps still apply, Dave, and that's a great question. Regardless of whether you were the one to approach them, there had to be something that they were interested in, something they needed to have a conversation with you in the first place. And there has to be some reason that they either said no or they went dark. And we have to document what those are. So whatever the source of the prospect is, whether they came to you because they found your website, or they're responding to a promotional campaign, or they came to a seminar, or they were a referral or a cold call that you made, whatever the source is, when they say no or go dark, you must record these two things: what they were interested in and why they missed. And you have to have that where you can pull it up very, very easily. Once you've done that, we move on. A quick little optional step. And this is specifically for pitch and miss prospects. If a pitch and miss prospect says no, an optional step that you can do is ask if they're okay with you staying in touch and sending helpful information from time to time. We're going to get to that why in the next step. If you can get their buy-in, it makes the next two steps much, much easier and more organic. But if you can't do that, and with a ghost prospect, you often can't, that's okay. We can still move on to step number 3. Step number 3 is the really big one. It's not the easiest thing to do. It takes some time, but it is, if anything, the secret ingredient in this entire process. You must add the pitch and miss prospect to your monthly drip. And if you don't have a monthly drip, you must start one. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to build what Bill calls top of mind awareness. And what that is whenever a prospect has a need or a question or a worry or an opportunity, your name must be the very first name that crosses their mind. And the only way to do that, the only way to create that top of mind awareness, is to make sure that they are seeing your name every single month, if possible, or at least every single quarter. And they must be associating your name with helpful information, with relevant information, with things that are inspiring and heartwarming. They have to, in other words, see your name frequently and associate it with positive things that make them feel good about their journey towards their financial goals. The more that happens, the more you build that top of mind awareness. Now, what goes into an effective monthly drip? Well, there are a few things that you can do. Whenever you have a pitch and miss or a ghost prospect, you need to make sure that you are sending them timely market and economic information. Now, I do not mean boilerplate commentary or information that is on generic financial topics. Those things are better than nothing, but they do not work as well. The reason why it needs to be timely is because every week, every month, every quarter, they're seeing things in the headlines, they're hearing things on the news that's going to make them worried, it's going to make them afraid, that's going to make them have questions, or conversely, may make them excited. And it needs to be you who are explaining to them what exactly is going on, why it matters, how it affects them, and how you can help them. Because the more you do that, the more they start to associate you as being the person, as the go-to person for all their questions, the person who will help them understand, why is this going on? What does it have to do with me? What can I do about it? It's incredible the power that the power of this kind of step, ensuring that every time there's something going on in the markets or the economy, they're seeing your name, breaking it down. This year gives us plenty of opportunities to do just that. We've had tariffs. We've had the big beautiful bill that just passed a couple of weeks ago. We've had geopolitical unrest in the Middle East. There's lots of things, lots of ways and opportunities for you to be in front of them, explaining what's going on and why it matters. Now, you also want to make sure you're not sending just financial information on timely topics. You also want to send them what we call feel-good content at least once per quarter. The easiest way to do that is by sticking to what we call the 4 core holidays, which are Memorial Day, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, or whatever seasonal winter holiday that you or your prospects celebrate. Because when they start receiving content on this once a quarter, now they're getting things that make them feel good, that make them feel inspired, that make them feel empowered. And again, they're associating your name with those feelings. So combining feel-good content with timely market and economic content is an incredibly powerful way of building that top of mind awareness. And then finally, if possible, what I would also do with this step is send your prospects a birthday letter or card every single year. A card works perfectly fine, but a letter works even better. When they get that actual birthday letter from you, and it's more than what they get from their current advisor, man, that is a really powerful way to show them that you care about them, that you are someone that they would want to do business with, not just as a professional, but as a person. Now, a few other things about this step. If possible, we want to make sure that we are sending physical letters at least once every quarter, but preferably every month to your pitch and miss and ghost prospects. Physical letters are way more tangible, and they're far more effective at building that top of mind awareness than emails are. However, especially with your ghost prospects, it's not always possible to do that. You may only have their email address and no other contact information. So an email works just fine if that's all you can do. But if you do it that way, again, it has to be on these topics that we mentioned here, or on these categories that we mentioned here. And as much as possible, we want to make them personal. So as an example, if all you're able to send to a ghost prospect is, let's say, a market commentary newsletter that's produced by your firm, that's not the best. But if that's all you have to work with, send at the very least a personally written, very short cover email explaining why you're sending it to them, why it matters, and what your thoughts are on the matter. Just by having 1 to 2 paragraphs of your personal voice attached to an email makes an enormous difference in how much your content actually gets read and engaged with. So try and make it personal as much as possible. Again, doing it once a quarter, if that's all you can do, that's fine. Once per month is better. But whatever form or fashion your monthly drip takes, get your pitch and miss and ghost prospects onto a monthly drip. This step alone will do wonders at turning these people into actual clients down the road. Now, once you've done that, the next step is to call every 90 to 180 days. Now, this call does not necessarily need to be from you. It could be from a team member. But what we're trying to do on this call goes back to what we talked about in steps 1 and 2. We're trying to follow up on what they were interested in the first place and why they said no. So if there was a specific reason or a specific problem or opportunity or need that brought them to you in the first place, we're following up with them to see, has that been satisfied yet? Have you found a solution yet? Has your current advisor been able to help you with that yet? If the answer is no, they're going to be feeling pretty frustrated. And that's going to make them prime to want to actually come in and see, can you do a better job of helping them with it? By the same token, we want to find and see if the condition that prevented them from working with you in the first place is still in play. Maybe your prospect said, no, I can't work with you right now. I can't do anything until I sell my home. Or I can't do anything until this event happens in my life. Well, we're trying to find out, has that condition happened? Has that event happened? Or has that condition been removed? And if so, They may be in a position now where they want to work with you, but you have to be the one who is proactively reaching out and determining whether that condition is still in place. You got to be the one asking them to the dance. You cannot be the one waiting to be asked. So these first four steps are usually, in a lot of ways, if done consistently, all you need to do to turn a pitch and miss or a ghost prospect back into a hot one who wants to set an appointment with you. But if it's not enough, we move on to steps 5 and 6. I mentioned that if the problem or opportunity that they're trying to solve has not been addressed in the time since they said no to you, they're going to be feeling frustrated. So step 5 is at least 6, but preferably more like 12 to 18 months later, during a time of intense market volatility or uncertainty with the economy or whatever trigger that might make them be feeling frustrated, we send them a letter that we call the frustrated yet letter. Now, here at Bill Good Marketing, we have a number of variations of that letter that our clients can use, but it's one that you can easily write yourself. You can see an example of one on the screen. The way this works is you're sending a very simple letter that simply asks, are you frustrated yet? Are you frustrated with the markets and how the portfolio is doing? Are you frustrated with your tax situation? Are you frustrated with what's coming out of Washington? Whatever the case may be, you write a simple letter talking about what's going on, asking if they're frustrated yet, and asking if they would like a second opinion on how you could help them remove that frustration. It's a really simple idea, but it's incredible how well it works when delivered at the right time. If you have a prospect who you've been dripping on, you've been giving them information, they feel good about you, even if they're not working with you. And then you send them a letter asking if they're frustrated. A lot of times prospects are going to go, you know what, I am frustrated and enough's enough. I need to work with this person, or I at least need to see what they can offer me. So step 5, send out that frustrated yet letter. It works wonders. And then the final step in this process, if these first 5 have not worked, is send a personal hand-addressed invitation to your next client education event if you do that. If you have done the previous steps in this process, again, they associate with you with helpful information. They feel positively about you. They have great top-of-mind awareness with them. You send them an invitation to an event that you're doing. Chances are they're going to think, you know what, I do want to come to this event. I do want to come hear what this advisor has to say. And that's a great opportunity to get in front of them and turn them into someone who has previously said no or previously went dark and who now says, yeah, I want to meet with you. I need your help on something. So these steps, they're all very, very simple, but they're incredibly effective. And I wanted to share with you really quick before I move on, a success story we got. This came in from an advisor named Kirk, who's based in Pennsylvania, if memory serves. And he sent us this email about 2 weeks ago. And I was really tickled when we got it because I knew I'd be talking about this very process. And Kirk says, I got an introduction to someone from a client of mine. This person just switched to a new advisor. And after talking with them, they responded, we'll let you know. Well, I dripped on them for another 6 months and ended up sending the Are You Frustrated Yet letter over to them. A couple months later, I got a letter from his wife saying, we are frustrated and we hear from you more than our current advisor. Here's our account. Let's talk. We met and they became a client. And that one letter accounted for about 3.8 million. And they ended up doing 4 mortgages with me. We love getting success stories like that. It's so cool to see it. And it shows how even something as simple as the steps we just went over really can make all the difference in turning a pitch and miss or a ghost into an actual client. That's the kind of opportunity you do not want to fall through the cracks. That's the kind of opportunity this process will help you turn into actual AUM and revenue. Okay, so that's the first process, the pitch and miss. I know we're throwing a lot of information at you, but we're going to keep going now into process number 2. And that's what Bill calls the no-name referral process. Now, the problem we're trying to solve here, I mentioned before that I think this is something that every advisor has encountered frequently in the course of their career. It's when a client provides a theoretical referral, but does not provide a name, or they leave the next step up to the referee. In other words, they're not giving you any suggested further course of action. They're basically telling someone, well, you should call my financial advisor, and then just leaving it at that. What often happens when this occurs, this no name theoretical referral occurs, is you never actually meet the person. It's an opportunity that is right there at your fingertips, but you just can't quite reach it. So how do we turn that into an actual introduction? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to define some terms. Um, I mentioned the word referral, and when I talk about referrals, I'm using Bill Good's definition of a real referral. And a real referral is a name that's volunteered to an advisor by a client whose friend or associate needs advice. A great example is this: I want you to talk to my brother Tim. He needs someone to help him figure out what to do about his 401k rollover, and he's expecting your call. Now, this is the gold standard of what a referral actually is. You have the actual name of the person, you know what they're looking for or what they need help with, and the client is giving you a specific course of action to take. Now, sometimes a referral may not have all these things. You may just have a name. You may just have what they need. They may not be telling you any particular course of action, but this is what a real referral looks like. When you get a name volunteered by the client of someone who needs advice, preferably with a suggested course of action. Now, by contrast, a no name referral is theoretical in that the client tells you about someone who may be qualified or interested, but does not give you their name, does not give you their contact information, and does not suggest any further course of action. The classic example of this is I was talking to a friend and I told him to call you. Again, happens all the time. Could be in a meeting, could be in a call, an email, could be when you just pass by the client of yours at the grocery store. Usually doesn't lead to anything. And then finally, the very top of this pyramid that we're going for is an introduction. Now, an introduction is a face to face interaction where your client personally introduces you to their friend, family member, or associate. An example of this: hey, there's someone I want you to meet. Bob, meet Frank, my golf buddy I told you about. Frank, this is my financial advisor, Bob. Introductions are the very top of what you're going for because it gives you an opportunity to immediately start building the foundation of a relationship with this person that you want to do business with. So, with these no name referrals, what we're trying to do here is turn them into real referrals, or even better, into introductions. The goal or the outcome we're shooting for here is that every no name referral that you get results in an introduction, or at minimum, contact information so you can follow up with that person. Because if you do this consistently, if you can turn every no name referral into a real referral or an introduction, suddenly what you're going to find is the number of referrals that you get every single year that turn into business will start to skyrocket. So, how do we do that? Well, the very first step, in fact, I'm actually going to go through the very first two steps simultaneously. Step number one is to create what we call a no name referral folder and then set it somewhere visible in your office. And then step two is whenever you get a no name referral that you cannot follow up on immediately, document it in writing and add it to the folder. Now, the reason these steps are so important is because there will be many situations where you receive a no name referral, but you can't act on it immediately. Maybe the conversation with the client goes in another direction. And by the time that direction is over, it would be unnatural or awkward to bring it back to that no name referral. Maybe the no name referral comes up in passing. Again, the grocery store example I gave you earlier. Can't follow up with that then and there for obvious reasons. Or maybe you're trying to help the client with something really important, like they have a family member who just passed away, and you're working through with them on the financial steps that they have to take next. Obviously, this is not the time to be worrying about a no name referral, but you still want to follow up on it at a later date. So get in the habit of every time you get it, document it, write it down, put it in the folder so you can return to it and know that it's there and not let it go unnoticed, not let it fall away from your mind or slip through the cracks. Now, once you've got in the habit of doing this, of documenting all these no name referrals, the next step is you want to customize and internalize the script that you see on the screen in front of you. The sample one I've given you goes like this. Let's say your client's name is John. John, thanks so much for talking to your friend about us. That really means a lot to me and to our whole team. If you don't mind, tell me a little bit about them. If no name is given, what is your friend's name so I can watch for their call? When you do have their name, and if they're not family, Ask them, okay, so your friend's name is Sam. How did you come to know Sam? What's how did you become the friends with them, or how do you? What's the basis of your relationship? Now you can tweak this script any way you want to. These words are just sample words. Make them your own. But the point is, have something in your mind that you've practiced, that you have ready to go, so that when you have the opportunity to follow up on a no-name referral, you know exactly what to say and how to get the conversation started. Now, once you've done that, you've documented the no-name referrals. You've been in the habit of, looking at them every single month, and you've internalized the script, however you want it to sound. The next step is to go through what we call our no-name referral questionnaire with the client, either in person or over the phone. So you've gone through that script, you've started up the conversation of figuring out who this no-name referral actually is, how the client knows them. Now you need to find out more about them. Now, some of the sample questions from this questionnaire you can see to the right. You're asking things like, how long have you known them? What brought them up as potentially needing to work with me? What do you normally do when you get together with this person? Do you have a favorite coffee shop or a restaurant that you guys go to together? Do they share a mutual interest? Or do they share a mutual interest that not just between them and the client, but between them, the client, and you? Are they working now, or did they retire? When did they retire? How active is their spouse in their finances? You're trying to find out two things by going through this questionnaire with your client. Number one, you're trying to find out, what do you have in common, or at the very least, what does the client have in common with this person they are referring to? They're referring to you. Because the more things you have in common, the more opportunities you will have to actually meet this referral. If you find out, for example, that the client and the person they're referring to you both have the same favorite coffee shop, it's as easy as blinking to then say, well, why don't we go to that favorite coffee shop of yours? You bring them along and we'll have coffee and I can meet this person. It's a really organic way of being able to get in front of them. Or if if they have a mutual interest, let's say all three of you love to golf. It's a classic example. Well, invite them for a round of golf. Or both the client and the referee both love to garden. Well, maybe the next time you do a client appreciation event, you do it based off of gardening or whatever that mutual interest is. So you can have that organic, natural way to invite the person to come to that event and again, get in front of them. So go through that questionnaire, document the answers. It's extremely valuable. Oh, the other thing that you're trying to do when you're going through these questions is you're also trying to find out what exactly the referee needs help with. What is the kind of situation going on in their life that would make them come up as a referral in the first place? A little bit about their financial situation so that when you do meet them, you can immediately begin providing value and be of some service to them. So this questionnaire really comes in handy when turning those no-name introductions into an actual, or no-name referral into an actual introduction. And then finally, you're going to finish off the conversation with this script. Now, I'm not going to go through this word for word. We don't have time for that. But this script that you can see before you is in the goodie bag. So again, if you stick around to the end of the webinar, you'll be able to get this exact script. And of course, you can tweak it however you want to. But what we're trying to do here by wrapping up this conversation with this script is immediately turn it into an introduction. I mentioned that's the goal before. We're trying to get to that highest level of the pyramid, which is a face-to-face interaction. And with this portion of the script, what we're doing is taking the information we've learned and using it to create a very natural, organic face-to-face interaction, whether it's an event, whether it's a meetup at a mutually shared activity, or it's as simple as having coffee at everyone's favorite coffee shop. It could be, there are, again, dozens of variations on how this can work, but by internalizing this script, having it something that you can deliver immediately and naturally and off the cuff, that will turn these situations into those kinds of introductions that you crave. So that's the no-name referral process. Again, really, really simple, all in a lot of ways, no-brainer kinds of steps. But when done consistently, they're going to help you get far more referrals and introductions than you have before. As proof of that, I offer up a success story that we received at the end of 2024. This is from a great client of ours named Robert, who is based in Nebraska. And he sent this email in. He said, I started working with Matt Hicken, who's one of our top coaches here at Bill Good Marketing. I started working with Matt as my coach in April of 2021. We immediately started focusing on new introduction opportunities. Since then, a little less than 50% of my growth has come from existing clients, and the rest from referrals and introductions. I added 10.5 million in new AUM in 2021, 24 in new AUM in 22, 26 million in 2023, and 31.4 million in 2024. That's fantastic. That's the kind of growth we want to see, and we're helping advisors achieve on the system here. And to his point, half of those numbers came from referrals and introductions, and a lot of those referrals and introductions came from implementing this no-name referral process. So as simple as it is, it really works in ensuring that no stone gets left unturned in turning every possible referral into a real one. Okay, I'm going to have a quick drink. I'll let you guys do over that for just a second. And then we're going to go into process number 3. How are we doing on time? We're doing great. Got plenty of time. Okay, wonderful. Process number 3. This one is my favorite. The reason why it's my favorite, let's rewind back to 2008. So I was 21 years old. I had just joined Bill Good Marketing in the end of 2027 or end of 2007. I'm sorry. So it's 2008 now. At the time when I first joined Bill Good Marketing, my job was what we called a remote computer operator, or RCO. And again, as I was young, I was just looking for a quick job that paid part-time hours and needs something to help me get through college. And what this job entailed was it was my responsibility to help advisors who were on our system actually use the CRM software that comes with our system. So every day I would remote into an advisor's computer and I would input the data into their CRM to make sure it actually got where it needed to be, actually got followed up on, actually got used. Pretty simple job, a lot of data entry involved. But in 2008, anyone who was around remembers this very well. The markets were in free fall. Financial advisors everywhere were losing business left, right, and center. Now, I had a client at the time, his name was Paul. And Paul came to me one day and he was extremely stressed because he was losing clients because of what was going on in the markets and the economy. And he said, Matt, I don't know what to do. We have to find some way that I can grow at all. I need to find some way that I can start getting more referrals, some way that I can find, additional assets. What can we do? What would Bill Good recommend? Now, I have to confess, at the time, I didn't actually know Bill. I hadn't met Bill yet. I'd only worked at Bill Good Marketing for a few months. I didn't know very much about financial advisors. I didn't even know very much about the system yet. I was really just doing data entry. But I wanted to do a good job. This was one of my favorite clients. I thought the world of Paul, and I still do. So what I did was I started to read as much as I could of things that Bill had written about in various magazines or had done speeches on, things like that. And one of the things I found was Bill talked about how do you find opportunities that are hidden within your database? Because the problem we're trying to solve here is that every week, advisors have lots of opportunities to do various things. Opportunities to generate goodwill, opportunities to advance a sale, opportunities to enhance their expert advisor identity. I'll get to what that is in just a second, or opportunities to perform relationship mapping. We'll get to that in a second as well. But too many of these opportunities go unnoticed or uncaptured. So what we did with Paul is we started taking a good look at all the notes, all the data that I was putting into the CRM for him, trying to find these opportunities that Bill was talking about, opportunities to generate goodwill, to advance a sale, to perform relationship mapping. And something amazing happened after we started doing that. Because the goal of this process and the thing that Paul and I started doing was that when we identified and then followed up on every opportunity to generate goodwill or advance a sale or perform relationship mapping or enhance his expert advisor identity, he would start to generate more business. What we found, and what every advisor who does this process finds, is that every time you generate goodwill, or the more often you generate goodwill, the more referrals that it leads to. The more often within the data in your CRM, within your notes, within your emails, et cetera, that you look hard, you can find opportunities to advance a sale, which of course leads to revenue. The more often you find opportunities to enhance your expert advisor identity, the more often clients hand over more of their assets for you to manage to the point where they make you their sole advisor or their sole provider. The more opportunities we find to perform relationship mapping, the more you can get introductions to people that your clients know and even develop strategic partnerships with other professionals that they work with. So that's the goal of this process. It worked wonders with Paul. By doing just this, he was able to start turning around his year and growing at a time when most advisors were contracting. And that's what we're going to try and do with this process, is find these hidden opportunities. I'm going to give you an example of exactly what that looks like. So this is an actual note that I put in for Paul going all the way back to 2008. I'm going to read it word for word because I think it's so important. I'll try and get through it quickly though. The note reads like this. I spoke with Chuck Lawrence this morning. I asked him how he was doing, and he said he was excited because he was about to attend his daughter's college graduation. We discussed the annuities his insurance company was promoting to him. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do anything at the moment, but I reminded him that the last time we met, he said he was worried about the surrender charges if he needed the money sooner. I brought up that I felt he was a little too concerned about income when retirement's still a good 7 years away, and there are other options to consider. He said that was a good point, and we agreed to discuss those options in the fall. And I realized I actually put in two different notes here, so I apologize. The next part of this note is actually from a different one, but the point I'm trying to make actually will still hold true, and I'll explain how in just a second. That reminded him of an article he read online about Social Security. He was pessimistic about whether his benefits would even still be there in 10 years because of programs with the program's trust funds. I told him that there were several things he could do about maximizing his benefits and promised to send him some information on the subject. He was very appreciative. But just in passing, I asked him right before the end of the call when he was going fishing next. He said he was going to try to go sometime in a week or two. I asked him who he usually goes fishing with. He has a buddy named Graham who's even crazier about fishing than he is. I told him I was thinking about hosting a small event for all my clients who like fishing at the local Bass Pro Shop and asked whether he thought Graham would like to come. Chuck said definitely. I told him I'd have my assistant call in a week to see if he had any questions on the Social Security info I was sending him. So again, this is actually two different notes that I put together, but I'll show you why this matters. This is the kind of thing that we started really diving into with Paul. There are amazing opportunities to do the things I talked about earlier: generate goodwill, advance a sale, perform relationship mapping, enhance your advisor identity. And I've highlighted those here. Chuck in the note mentioned he was excited because he was about to attend his daughter's college graduation. He also talked about how the last time we met, he said he was worried about the surrender charges on annuities he was considering, and he was looking at other options. He talked about how he was worried about his Social Security benefits and wanted some more information on the subject. Finally, he mentioned that he's got a buddy named Graham who he loves to go fishing with. So all this information in this note is stuff that Paul could use, or any advisor can use, to do the following. By finding out that Chuck's daughter is graduating from college, Paul was able to send a congratulations letter to both the client and the daughter. This creates goodwill. And the more goodwill you create with your clients, the more referrals and introductions you will receive. By documenting the fact that Chuck had CDs coming due, and again, I apologize because that's from a different note that got stitched together with this one, the advisor was able to move those assets in-house rather than letting them go to an insurance company who was talking to him about annuities. Now, Chuck's worries about Social Security meant that the advisor can now track that subject as an interest in the client's sales profile. And furthermore, by sending follow information on Social Security on that interest, Paul was able to enhance his expert financial advisor identity, show his client that he was able to help them with any worry or question or concern that he might have on anything related with finances. And the more he can do that, the more you can do that, the more you are showing that you are an expert advisor. The more your clients and prospects think of you as a true expert, the more they will entrust you with their business, with their assets, and again, even with helping out their friends and family members. And finally, by asking questions about Chuck's hobbies and by documenting the answers, Paul was able to know the name of Chuck's friend, who he can then invite to future events and get an introduction to, like we've already talked about. And this is what relationship mapping is all about. It's tracking who knows who so you can get more introductions. So as you can see from one simple note, you can get a lot of information that you can use to further seize more opportunities to do business or generate referrals with your clients and prospects. I'm going to give you another example. This is an email that an advisor shared with us several years back. It was after he sent out a Thanksgiving letter to his client, and he got this email back in response to that letter. It goes like this. Hi, Ray. I loved Bert's Thanksgiving. That was the name of the letter that he sent. Thank you so much. Maddie and I are hosting 13 for Thanksgiving, including Jamie and Ann, and I'll make sure we pass it around the table. My father-in-law particularly liked it. He really liked the last one I shared with him. He's a really good cook. I'm not, but I'm learning. So thank God he's helping us in the kitchen this year. We're going on a cruise in December to celebrate our 10th anniversary, so we won't be able to go to your Christmas party. If I don't see you before the new year, have happy holidays. I am behind on getting my budget in order. Work and home are a juggle, but I'll get there. Thanks for taking such good care of us. Happy Thanksgiving. Warmest, Sean. So this is another example of what this process is all about. It's finding opportunities to generate goodwill, advance a sale, perform relationship mapping, or demonstrate your expert advisor identity. I've highlighted a few of the areas in this email that enable you to do exactly that. The email talks about the client's father-in-law, that he's like previous letters that he's seen from this advisor in the past. Also talk about how he's a really good cook and how the client is not a good cook, but is trying to learn how to be one. It talks about how the client is going on a cruise in December to celebrate his 10th anniversary. And finally, that he's behind on getting his budget in order. So right there, you've just learned, or this advisor learned, about the client's father-in-law, about a mutual interest that they both share, an interest that the advisor could do an event based off of, and then be able to invite the client's father-in-law to come and get that introduction. He's learning that the client is going on a cruise and is celebrating their 10th anniversary. So what this advisor did is he arranged so there were flowers and an anniversary card waiting in the client's room on the cruise ship when they got on board. So you can bet that generated a lot of goodwill with the client. It made them feel incredibly cared for, and they were incredibly impressed that their advisor took the time to do that. And then finally, he learned that this client is feeling behind on getting his budget in order. So that's something that the advisor was able to help him with in the new year. Another way of demonstrating his expert advisor identity. So right there in this email, you see chances to generate goodwill, to do relationship mapping, to be able to demonstrate your expert advisor identity, all things that you can do to generate new business down the road. So I've given you a few different examples of how this process works. Let's get into the actual process itself. Step one is that every Friday, it doesn't have to be on a Friday, but I recommend that it be, review or delegate a team member to review all of the client and prospect notes and incoming emails from the previous week. You need to make sure these are actually being reviewed for the opportunities that I just went over. Because specifically what you're trying to do is look for and flag the following opportunities. So goodwill opportunities. Look for anything that would require or would give you the opportunity to offer congratulations to your clients. Anniversaries, milestones, personal achievements, things like that. You're looking for opportunities to extend your condolences. There's a death in the family, if there's personal setbacks. Opportunities to send a get well letter or a get well card if there's a sickness or an injury or something like that. Or opportunities to extend encouragement if they're starting a new venture, if they're tackling a new opportunity or challenge. The more you can see that your clients and prospects have goodwill opportunities in their lives, and the more you follow up on that, the more that they will think warmly of you, the more they'll think of you not just as their advisor, but as a trustworthy and caring person who they are so glad is in their lives. And that's what leads to referrals and introductions down the road. You also want to look for branding opportunities. If in a note or an email, you see that a client or a prospect has a question or concern about something related to the markets, the economy, aspects of their personal finance. We talked about budgeting before. We talked about what to do when a CD matures. That gives you a chance to enhance your expert advisor brand, like we talked about. You're also looking for sales opportunities. Are there new money? Do they have questions or need for a service you offer? Are there any personal interests that they have that dovetail with something that you can do for them? And then finally, relationship mapping opportunities. Do they have any friends or family members that they share specific hobbies and interests with? Make sure you are documenting that. Are there other professionals that they work with that could potentially become strategic partners? Make sure you are documenting that. So every week, you need to review all of your notes, all of your incoming emails to see, are there opportunities to generate goodwill, to enhance your brand, to advance a sale, or to perform relationship mapping. What I'd recommend you do next is then tag or document in your CRM all those opportunities you found as appropriate. And then finally, you want to follow up. Now, one thing you can do to make this whole process easier is every time you have a team meeting, have whichever team member you've assigned to investigate all of your notes and incoming emails, to bring a list to your team meeting so all of you who are on your team can go through all those opportunities together, so you can determine, okay, what is this opportunity and how do we follow up on it? Do we want to send a get well letter? Do we want to send a congratulations letter? Do we want to give them a phone call? Do we want to send them further information? Do we need to do a specific event based off what we've learned? Have all of your team together brainstorm the best ways to follow up on these opportunities. And then, of course, actually do the follow-up. If you do this consistently, if you are thorough and rigorous at investigating all of your notes, all of your emails, all of your data for these hidden and covered opportunities, you are going to find so many new ways that you can engage with your clients and prospects, that you can serve them, that you can deepen relationships with them. And the more you do that, the faster you will grow. It is a miracle. It is a miracle drug in a lot of ways, how much impact this will have on your growth. Looking for these hidden and covered opportunities that are found in your notes, in your emails, in your data. I love this process. It's so effective. And it's a lot of fun to do as well with your team, because it can lead to a lot of really enjoyable opportunities to further interact with your clients and prospects down the road. Okay, so that's those are the three processes. I know I just sent a lot of information your way, but again, these processes are something that you can take and apply immediately, and they will help you be able to prevent fewer opportunities from slipping through the cracks. And by doing that, they'll help you continue on the road to hitting that million in production mark or beyond. Now, these processes are not the only ones out there. And I have to tell you that our system, the whole Bill Good Marketing system, is based around all the processes, all the content, all the technology, all the strategies, all the campaigns we have ever discovered that help advisors progress towards their own growth goals. And the reason I mention this is because as you're implementing these processes, you will probably come across a time where you realize, I don't have a process for this particular problem or for this particular opportunity. And I want to let you know that if that is ever the case, please reach out to us. We would be happy to talk with you and help you determine what processes you need to solve that particular problem or reach that particular opportunity. And I specifically want to encourage you that if there are any opportunities that you have right now that you need help seizing, or any problems that you need help solving, I would encourage you to reach out and have a talk with Stephanie Peterson, who is our Vice President of Growth here at Bill Good Marketing. Stephanie is fantastic. And what she can do is, just in a quick 15, 20-minute conversation with you, she can take a look at your business, what you're trying to achieve, and help you determine what processes you need to put in place in order to be able to achieve what you're trying to do. So if you are interested in having a conversation with Stephanie or anyone on our growth team, I would recommend that you let us know at the end of this webinar, and I'll show you how to do that right now. I mentioned that we have a goodie bag, and this goodie bag contains all of the processes that I just went over, all of the written steps that you need to do to actually employ them. To get that goodie bag, all you need to do is fill out a quick report card. Let us know what you got from this webinar, what you'd like to hear from us in the future, and tell us a bit about how we did and how we can help you moving forward. As soon as you filled out that report card, it'll take you immediately to the goodie bag. And then when you're doing that, if you'd like to have a chat with Stephanie, again, which is well worth your time, please just let us know in the report card and we'll reach out to you, make sure that gets scheduled. But to get that report card, all you have to do is go to this link here. That's bgmtips.com/million, or scan the QR code. Again, it takes 30 to 60 seconds to fill out, and it'll take you right to the goodie bag and to these processes. So I'll leave that up on the screen for you guys so you can get to that now. And otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. I've covered the things we wanted to cover. I hope you were able to get something out of this. I hope these processes were new for you, and there are some steps in here that you are excited to implement moving forward. Again, these processes are things that are as simple as they are. They've helped so many financial advisors get to that million in production mark and then go far beyond even that. So take these goodies, take what you learned here today, start doing them, and let us know what the results are. And of course, as always, let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you in the future. So from everyone at Bill Good Marketing, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to you for giving an hour of your time. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you on the next webinar. And that's all for us today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.